Imagine for a second a perfectly ordinary evening. A person lies down in bed, turns off the light, closes their eyes. And in the darkness, without even realizing it, they begin quietly muttering to themselves, "I'm so tired. Nothing worked out again. Tomorrow it'll all start over again." It seems like nonsense, just the tired thoughts of a tired person. But what if I told you that at this very moment, they're not summing up the day, they're giving orders? A command to the most powerful computer in the universe, their own brain, to determine what their tomorrow will be like. And the brain carries out this order, unquestioningly. All night, while a person sleeps, it constructs exactly the reality ordered by those last words before bed. This was discussed by Natalia Bekhtereva, a woman who knew more about the human brain than anyone in the country. She directed the Institute of the Human Brain. For decades, she studied what happens in our heads on the border between wakefulness and sleep. And it was she who came up with the idea that sends shivers down our spines. Most people voluntarily program themselves for another miserable day every night, with their own words, in silence, unaware of what they are doing. Now imagine the opposite, that there are just three words, three simple words that, if spoken at the right moment, that narrow window before falling asleep, can slowly, night after night, turn your life around. Not all at once, but inexorably. What is this moment? What are these three words? And why do those who try to think positive thoughts before bed often get nothing? In this video, you'll learn the exact formula, which words to say, at what moment, how to connect them with the body and the image, and why it all works on a physiological level, not magically. Stay until the end. Towards the end, I'll tell you about a secret gesture that amplifies the effect several times over. Only a few people have used this gesture. Let's be honest. How many times have you tried to change your life during the day, pulling yourself together, setting goals, forcing yourself to think positively? And how many times has it all ended in nothing after just a week? It's not because you're weak. It's because during the day, you're being controlled by someone you don't even notice. You have your own guard in your head. And while he's on duty, not a single new thought will get through. There's a mechanism in the brain that scientists call an error detector. Bekhtereva was studying it. Simply put, it's an internal guardian of your psyche. It stands at the gates of consciousness and allows in only what it considers its own, familiar, and proven. Anything new, anything different from your usual way of thinking, it rejects as a threat. Its job is to protect you from change, any kind, even good ones. That's why you tell yourself in the morning, starting today, everything is different. I believe in success. And an hour later, your inner voice mutters as usual, "Who are you kidding?" It's not you. It's him, the guard. He heard a new thought, didn't recognize it, and threw it out. He feeds on everything you've been repeating for years. The more you've thought, "I can't do this," the thicker the walls he guards. And here's the catch. During the day, this guardian is awake and stronger than ever. Any attempt to reprogram oneself through willpower is shattered within a matter of days. But there's one moment in the day when it lets down its guard. When the guard at the gate begins to doze, leaving his post unattended. It's during this brief window that a direct path to the subconscious opens. And anyone aware of this moment can quietly pass the guardian and implant a new program right where it's inaccessible during the day. You'll understand what this moment is in a minute, and then it will become clear why all your previous attempts were doomed. This moment comes every evening. It lasts only a few minutes, you can't buy it, and every person on Earth experiences it without exception. It's the gap between wakefulness and sleep, those moments when you've already laid down, your eyes closed, your body feels heavy, and your thoughts begin to wander. Scientists call this the borderline state, and it's here that the most interesting things happen. At these moments, your brain's rhythms slow down. That same error detector, that vigilant guard, loosens its grip. The gates of consciousness, locked tight during the day, open slightly. And everything you say to yourself at this moment no longer passes through criticism and resistance, but straight into the subconscious, where your true attitudes, fears, and life scenarios reside. A man who had struggled with himself for years once came to Bekhtereva and complained, "I repeat affirmations in front of the mirror every morning, and nothing happens." She answered him simply, "You knock on a locked door during the day when the owner doesn't answer, and the key is under your pillow. It only works at night." That's why people who sincerely try to get into a good frame of mind in broad daylight fail. They give the command at the wrong time and in the wrong place. They say the right words, but they knock loudly on a locked door instead of quietly entering when it's ajar. And the subconscious in a borderline state is like warm wax. During the day, it's frozen, hard, try to push it. But when you're falling asleep, it's soft and pliable. Any imprint you leave on it now will harden by morning and become part of you. And here the main question arises. If this window is open for everyone every night, why do most people use it to their own detriment? Why, instead of pressing something bright into the soft wax, do they instead press, "I'm tired, I can't cope, everything is bad" into it? The answer is simple and bitter, because no one ever told them that these minutes aren't the void before sleep. They are the most precious time of the day. And now you'll learn exactly how to fill it. Before we get to the actual words, I want you to see a living person, so that this doesn't remain just a theory. Andrei was 43, an ordinary man like millions of others, a job he had long disliked. Loans, a feeling that life was stuck, driving along the same rut without any breaks. Every morning the same road, the same faces, the same tasks. The days blurred together. He himself couldn't remember the difference between Tuesday and Thursday. And every night he fell asleep the same way. He lay in the dark and replayed in his head everything that had gone wrong, how much he owed, how tired he was of it all, how nothing had changed and never would. He called it just thinking before bed. He didn't know that every night he was signing his own death warrant for the next day with his own hands, and his brain obediently carried it out. This went on for years. Andrei was convinced he was stuck forever, that change wasn't meant for people like him. That dreaming at his age and position was foolish and too late. A familiar feeling, right? That quiet, familiar hopelessness that doesn't even scream, but simply hums steadily in the background every day. And then there was one evening, unremarkable, just like hundreds before it. Andrei lay down, closed his eyes, and prepared to bury himself under the weight of his thoughts as usual. But this time something inside him trembled, as if someone quietly asked, "What if all this time you've been doing exactly the opposite? What if every night you've been programming yourself for this very life you hate so much?" That night Andrei did something different, something very simple, something that would only take a few seconds and cost nothing. And it was from that night on that something began to unfold in his life that he hadn't expected for many years. What he did and what came of it you'll see a little later, and the ending of his story will surprise you. For now, remember Andrei as he is now, tired, given up, certain it's too late. Because from this very moment begins a journey that could be yours too. We're used to thinking that words are just sounds, like the air we exhale. Saying "I'm tired" or "I'm full of energy" is just a matter of mood. But that's not true, and now I'll show you how, right on your own body. Try a little experiment. Right now, not out loud, but mentally, slowly say to yourself, "lemon." Imagine cutting a yellow lemon in half. See the drops of juice. Bring the slice to your mouth and bite into it. Can you feel it? Many people are salivating right now. You haven't bitten into a lemon. There is no lemon. There is only the word and the image. But your body has truly reacted. The glands have started working. That's what a word is to your body. It's a command. You have about 86 billion nerve cells in your head. 86 billion. And every word you say to yourself runs through these cells and sets off a chain reaction, a chemical release, a change in tone, muscle tension or relaxation, heart rate. The word tired isn't a description. It's a command to your body to produce fatigue chemicals. The word, "I can't cope," is a command to release stress hormones. Now let's return to Andrei. When he fell asleep for years saying, "I'm sick of it all, nothing will work out," he wasn't just sad. Every night, he literally gave his 86 billion cells a chemical command: prepare my body and brain of a loser for tomorrow. And the cells did. They did. In the morning, he woke up exhausted even before he opened his eyes, because the order had been placed during the night. Now imagine that at the very moment of falling asleep, when the guard is dozing and the word goes straight to your subconscious, you give your body a different command. Not a random one, not something you're just thinking about, but a precise one, a well-calibrated one. One that turns all 86 billion cells toward life, not decay. The only question is, which words possess such power? There can't be many. A complex phrase won't hold together in a half-asleep state. There must be few, and each one must hit the mark. Now you'll find out what these words are. There are only 3 of them. I create tomorrow. Say it slowly, pausing between each word. I create tomorrow. At first glance, that's all? 3 short words you've known since childhood. Where's the great formula here? The power lies precisely in the fact that each of these words carries a precise command to the subconscious, and together they close the very door the guard is pounding on during the day. Let's take it one by one. The first word is I. This is the anchor. You don't ask someone higher up, you don't hope for luck, you don't wait for circumstances to be kind. You take responsibility for yourself. I is a declaration to your subconscious. I'm the boss here, and I make the decisions too. This is a signal to the brain to gather around the center rather than spread out among worries. The second word is I create. Not I want, not I dream, not I hope. I create is a verb of action in the present tense, right now. This is crucial. The subconscious doesn't understand someday or maybe. It lives only in the present. When you say, I create, you tell your brain the process is already underway. The construction has already begun. Get to work this very night. And the third word is tomorrow. That's the key to everything. You don't try to rewrite a past that can't be changed. You don't get bogged down in the difficult today. You direct all the force of the moment of falling asleep forward to that one day that doesn't yet exist, that is completely open. Tomorrow hasn't yet been written, and it is you, this night, who lay the first brick in its foundation. 3 words. I create tomorrow. So simple that even a sleeping security guard wouldn't reject them. He sees them as no threat. They slip right past him. And so precise that each one redirects your chemistry, your responsibility, and your attention toward a new life. Remember these 3 words. We'll return to them until the very end, and by the end, you'll learn to amplify them several times over. But words alone don't tell the whole story. To prove this works beyond theory, meet Elena. And pay attention to day 22, it'll be important. Elena was nearly 50, and her fatigue was different from Andrei's. Andrei was burned out from a job he didn't love, but Elena was burned out from loving others. She'd devoted her entire life to her family, her children, her parents, and at some point, she realized there was almost nothing left of herself. She woke up with one thought, I'm empty, and she fell asleep with the same thought. She tried everything. Psychology books, courses, expensive trainings that only gave her the energy to last 3 days. Each time, she expected a big explosion, an instant transformation, and each time she slipped back, even more convinced that something was wrong with her and that there was no help for her. And then she came across that very method. 3 words before bed as she drifted off to sleep. No mirrors, no morning rituals, no stress. Just every night, lying in the dark, when her body felt heavy, she would quietly say to herself, I am creating tomorrow. And that's it. No fireworks, no miracles the next morning. The first week passed nothing. Elena honestly waited for some sign and almost decided it was just another dummy. The second week, subtle shifts. She suddenly realized she felt a little lighter waking up in the morning, that she caught herself smiling once during the day for no apparent reason. Little things that could easily be chalked up to chance, and she did. And then came the 22nd day, and it was no coincidence that it was on that day. That morning, Elena woke up, and for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel the usual leaden heaviness in her chest. Not a little lighter, but truly different, as if something inside had finally snapped into place. She herself didn't immediately understand what had happened, and she burst into tears. But these were tears of relief, not despair. Why day 22? Why not day 5, or 10, or 30th? Behind this number lies a precise mechanism of how the brain works, and when you understand it, you'll stop giving up halfway. But before we get to the secret of day 22, I must warn you of 5 mistakes. Because of them, even these 3 magic words won't work, and most people make at least one of them without even realizing it. Now for the most practical part. I'll tell you the exact ritual. Don't just think about the good, but rather concrete steps. What to do when you go to bed so that the 3 words work to their full potential. This is the very key that Bekhtereva figuratively called the one lying under the pillow. Step 1. Seize the moment. Don't speak immediately after lying down. You're still too awake. The guard is on duty. Wait until your body becomes heavy, your breathing evens out, and your thoughts begin to drift and become confused. This is the borderline state, that slightly open door. It usually occurs a few minutes after you close your eyes. You'll recognize it by the feeling of a soft sinking. Step 2. Relax your body. Move your attention from the top of your head to your feet, releasing tension in each area: forehead, jaw, shoulders, arms, stomach, legs. The more relaxed your body, the quieter the guard. Remember Bekhtereva's words, strength isn't in tension, but in letting go. The most important doors open when we stop pushing. Step 3. Say 3 words, slowly, mentally, with pauses. I create tomorrow. And don't rush to say them mechanically. Feel each word. With I, sense yourself, your presence, your center. With I create, feel a gentle warmth of action, as if something within has begun to move. With tomorrow, direct your inner gaze forward into the open, still clear day. Step 4 is the most underrated. Gratitude. After the 3 words, add a short expression of gratitude for the good that already exists. This isn't just a nice habit. When you express gratitude, your brain switches from an anxious search for threats to a calm sense of abundance. And it's in this warm, rich state that your 3 words are most deeply imprinted. Say silently what you feel. I am grateful for this day. A few seconds, and you can drift off to sleep. That's the entire ritual. It takes a couple of minutes and requires nothing but you and darkness. But it's precisely these simple steps that people stumble over out of the blue. Now I'll show you exactly how. The first and most common mistake, formulating a negative. A person lies down and, instead of a clear command, thinks, I hope tomorrow isn't so bad. I hope I don't break down. And they don't understand that the subconscious doesn't hear the particle not. It clings to the main image. You say not to be poor, and it hears poor. Right now, try not to think about the red elephant. How about it? The elephant is already before your eyes. That's how your brain clings to what you tried to push away. Therefore, only in affirmation, only forward. I create tomorrow. Mistake number 2. Doubt immediately follows the words. A person says, I'm creating tomorrow, and immediately mentally adds, oh, come on, that's nonsense. How will that help? In doing so, they erase the command they just wrote down. You've said it. Don't argue with yourself. Let it go without judgment. Mistake 3. Tension and an attempt to control the outcome. people grit their teeth and demand an accounting from the universe tomorrow morning. But the harder you push, the louder you wake the guard. A hardened skeptic once came to Bekhtereva and declared the method nonsense. He'd tried it, and it hadn't worked. She asked, "How did you do it?" He replied, "Every night I forcefully ordered myself to change." She smiled. "That's the problem. You were pushing where you needed to let go. Deep doors aren't broken down, they're entered quietly." Mistake number 4, impatience. Giving up after 3 or 4 days without waiting. Remember Elena? Her first week was a complete failure. If she had given up on day 5, she would never have made it to day 22. Most people give up in this gap between "I'm already doing it" and "I don't see it yet." And the 5th mistake, inconsistency. I said something today, forgot it tomorrow, and got lazy the day after. But the brain needs rhythm. It needs repetition, night after night. Without it, a new path simply doesn't have time to develop. Why rhythm is crucial, you'll understand in a minute, when I finally reveal the secret of the 22nd day. Remember how I promised to explain why the turning point happened precisely on the 22nd day, for Elena and for thousands of other people? It has to do with how the brain creates new pathways. It's called neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to physically rewire its connections to respond to what we repeat. Imagine a dense forest. Your old thoughts, "I'm tired, it won't work, it's too late," are a wide, well-trodden path through this forest. Walking along it is easy, your feet carry you. But the new thought, "I am creating tomorrow," is a narrow path you've just begun to tread through the windfall. The first few times it's hard to walk, it's barely visible, and your foot is tempted to stray back into the old, well-worn tracks. What happens when you repeat 3 words night after night? You tread a new path again and again. And your brain, seeing that this path is regularly trodden, begins to rebuild it, strengthen it, expand it, weave new neural connections. The path is worn down, the grass is flattened. With each passing night, the going gets easier. Scientists have noticed a pattern. For a new connection to become solidified and automatic, the brain needs about 21 days of regular repetition. For 21 days, you manually, with effort, build this road, brick by brick, night after night. And on the 22nd, the goal of all this happens. The road itself guides you for the first time. What was a difficult choice becomes a new automatic process. That's why Elena woke up different on the 22nd morning, not because of the magic of numbers, but because of the exact day when the path she had built activated without her effort. And here it's important to understand the 3 weeks from the inside. The first week is pure resistance. The old guard is still strong, the path is almost gone, and it feels like you're doing something in vain. That's normal. Hang in there. The second week sees the first tentative shifts, like Elena's, a slightly lighter morning, the occasional smile. And the third week is consolidation, when the new path finally becomes solid and takes control. So, if after a few days it seems like nothing is happening, know this: it's not a failure. Construction is already underway underground, unseen on the surface. Roots reach down before the sprout appears. Don't dig up the seed to see if it sprouted. Just keep sowing, night after night. And now that you know about the 22 days, I'll finally reveal to you that secret gesture that amplifies all 3 words several times over. I promised you a secret gesture, one that amplifies 3 words several times over. And now you'll understand why I saved it for last, because without everything you've already learned, it wouldn't have worked. The gesture is ridiculously simple. When you're lying in bed, relaxed, and about to say 3 words, touch your thumb and index finger together. On one hand or both, whichever is more comfortable. A light touch, without effort. And with this touch, say, "I create tomorrow." That's it. That's the whole gesture. Why is it necessary? What psychologists call anchoring is at work here. When you repeatedly connect a specific physical action with specific words and states of mind, the brain firmly links them. Body and words become one. And over time, simply touching your fingers, even during the day, during a difficult moment, while waiting in line, before an important conversation, and the brain instantly recalls all that calm, creative state you've cultivated over the past few nights. The gesture becomes a button, and by pressing it, you trigger the desired mood in a second. But there's a second, deeper reason. Remember the lemon experiment? The body responds to images the same way it responds to reality. When you add physical touch to words, you connect another channel to the command, the bodily one. Now, the subconscious receives the signal not only through the hearing of the thought, but also through the sensation in your fingers. The command comes from both directions at once, and it's imprinted twice as deeply. A word plus touch is no longer just a thought, it's an experience that involves the entire body. That's why this gesture was essentially used by a select few, those who intuitively sensed that for a command to get through, it must involve the body, not just the head. Interlock your fingers, say 3 words, add a thank you, and you've accomplished something most people never do. Now you have a complete system. All that remains is to understand why it works at the very core of our physiology. Let's put it all together and understand why this simple construct is so powerful. The secret is that the brain barely distinguishes between something vividly imagined and something actually experienced. For it, a vivid, heartfelt image is almost the same as what actually happened. Think of the lemon and the saliva. There was no lemon, but the reaction was real. Now add up everything you do as you fall asleep. You say the word create. You add an image, an open, bright tomorrow ahead. You engage your body, the touch of your fingers, and relaxation. You add a feeling, gratitude, and warmth. And you do all this in that single moment when the guard is dozing and the door to the subconscious is ajar. What does your brain receive in the end? Not a dry order. It receives a ready-made, lived-in scenario for tomorrow, complete with words, images, physical sensations, and emotions. A full, immersive experience that, to the brain, is almost indistinguishable from the real thing. And all night, while you sleep, it works with this scenario like a manual, adjusting your chemistry, rebuilding connections, preparing you for the very tomorrow you ordered. That's why just thinking positive thoughts doesn't work, while this formula does. Thinking positive thoughts is a pale, flat, fleeting signal that the brain easily ignores. But a word plus an image plus a body plus a feeling at the right moment is a vivid, multi-channel command that the brain accepts as reality and begins to implement. You don't convince yourself, you give the brain a precise image of the goal, and it itself, without your daytime control, begins to lead you toward it. Every night you lay one brick, and the brain, at night, completes the entire building. And now it's time to find out how Andrei and Elena's stories ended. Remember Andrei? 43 years old, a job he hated, loans, a sense of being stuck in a rut. That night, when something inside him trembled, that was the night he first said 3 words to himself. I create tomorrow. And he began repeating them every night. The first week was nothing, as expected. The old path was too well trodden. But Andrei, unlike his former self, didn't give up this time. He remembered the 21 days and simply continued. And somewhere around the 3rd week, he caught himself doing something strange. For the first time in years, he woke up not with the thought, same old story again, but with a quiet curiosity. What can I do today? A small shift, but that's where it all began. Then came the chain. He began to see his work differently, not as a prison, but as a point from which he could take a step forward. He began studying in the evenings what he'd long been drawn to, but always felt too late and unnecessary. After a few months, he had a small side job. After another while, an offer he hadn't expected. Not a magical overnight turnaround, but a slow but inevitable change of course, because he was setting himself a new direction every night. And Elena? The one who felt empty and woke up a different person on the 22nd day? From that morning on, it was as if she began to fill up again, not through new sacrifices for others, but because for the first time in decades, she included herself among those she cared about. She returned to a long-forgotten task that brought her joy. Her loved ones said she felt rejuvenated. The most important thing in both stories is this: Andrei and Elena were different ages, different dead ends, different lives. But both were convinced for years that they were stuck forever. And both were wrong. Their lives weren't changed by money, or a miracle, or someone else's help. They were changed by 3 words spoken at the right moment, night after night, without fail. This is something that is accessible to everyone listening to me now, including you. And now that you've seen where this leads, let's distill everything you've learned into one simple picture so you can begin tonight. Let's put it all together into one clear picture so you don't miss a thing and can get started today. We've come a long way, and now all the pieces need to come together. You've learned that your brain is home to a guard, an error detector that rejects any new thought during the day and keeps you on your usual path. You've learned that there's a moment when this guard dozes, a borderline state between wakefulness and sleep, when the door to the subconscious opens slightly. You've learned that a word isn't a sound for the body, but a command. 86 billion nerve cells respond to every word spoken silently, just as the glands responded to the image of a lemon. You've learned 3 words that skip right past the sleeping guard and hit the mark: I, responsibility, and center. I create, action in the present. Tomorrow, direction to a still, clear, open day. You've learned the ritual. Seize the moment of falling asleep. Relax your body. Say the 3 words with pauses and feeling, and add gratitude. You've learned the 5 mistakes that ruin everything: denial, doubt after words, tension, and an attempt to control, impatience, and inconsistency. You've learned about the 22 days. For 3 weeks, you manually tread a new path through the forest, and on the 22nd day, it guides you for the first time. And you learned a secret gesture, the touch of your thumb and index finger, which anchors the state and connects your body to the command, making it twice as powerful. And underneath all this lies the main principle. The brain barely distinguishes between the vividly lived and the real, so it accepts a word plus an image plus a body plus a feeling at the right moment as a script and embodies it while you sleep. That's the whole mechanism, in its entirety, nothing extra. Everything you need is already there, you and the silence before bed. All that's left is to ask one question, which will determine everything. And the question is this: every night, without exception, you will still say something to yourself before bed. It's not a choice whether to program yourself or not. You program yourself always, every night, whether you want it or not. Andrei did this for years and ordered a rut for himself. Elena did this and ordered emptiness for herself. They didn't choose whether to do or not. They simply didn't know they were choosing the content. Now you know, and that makes all the difference. From this evening on, you won't have the excuse, "I don't know." You'll know for sure that the moment you fall asleep, your hand is on a lever that turns tomorrow one way or another. And every night you'll make a choice, even if it's a default choice, out of an old habit of replaying all the bad things in your head. Think about how many nights like this you've already had. Thousands. Thousands of "I'm tired, it won't work, it's too late" commands that your brain obediently followed, building exactly the life you'd set it up for. Now imagine what will happen in a year if, for each of the next 365 nights, you lay another brick in the foundation of tomorrow. Not immediately, not in a week, but inexorably as you once built the old track. The quietest act of your life, 3 words in the dark before bed, can be the most powerful. Not because there's magic in it, but because you're finally doing consciously what you've been doing blindly your whole life. There's only one question. What will you say to yourself tonight? And let's start right now, without delay. Let's do it together. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't wait for Monday. Don't wait until you get it together. This method costs exactly one thing: your night to night. So let's agree on the first step right now while you're listening. Tonight, when you lie in bed and feel your body grow heavy, you will join your thumb and index finger and slowly, pausing, say to yourself, "I am creating tomorrow." And then add, "I am grateful for this day." That's all. Just try this for one night and remember how you wake up tomorrow. Don't promise yourself 30 days. It's scary and the guard resists. Promise yourself one night, just tonight. And tomorrow, when you wake up, decide on the next one. So, night after night, without even realizing it, you'll get through those 22 days, after which the road will lead you on its own. And the last thing I want you to take with you is this: you are not broken. You are not too late. It is not too late or too old. Remember Elena at almost 50 and Andrei at 43. All this time, you were not a weak person who could not change. You were a powerful creator who simply did not know what buttons he was pressing in the dark. Now you know. The buttons are the same. The hands are yours. And tomorrow is not yet written, and you will lay the first brick in it tonight. 3 words, 1 gesture, an open door. Good night and a good tomorrow, which you will create yourself.